Hello, everyone. I'm Kate Baldwin. It has been a head-spinning turn of events that we have watched play out in the last just hour. Moments ago, here is how Chicago's police superintendent described the Jussie Smollett investigation that they have concluded. Here are some of the words he used to describe it: manipulation, publicity stunt, phony attack, egregious, untrue, and shameful. Absolutely tearing in to the Empire actor, who is now in custody, charged with filing a false report when he claimed he was a victim of a hate crime last month. It was an assault investigators they now say was concocted and orchestrated by Smollett over his salary on the television show. Charges Smollett has denied, at least until today. Listen here to the superintendent, Eddie Johnson, and what he said at the very beginning of his press conference.
This announcement today recognizes that Empire actor Jussie Smollett took advantage of the pain and anger of racism to promote his career. I'm left hanging my head and asking why. Why would anyone, especially an African-American man, use the symbolism of a noose to make false accusations? So I'm offended by what's happened, and I'm also angry.
CNN's Ryan Young has been following the story since it first broke. He's joining me now. Ryan, I have to say, first and foremost, honestly, good on the Chicago police superintendent for calling everyone out for jumping to conclusions before their investigation had concluded. But can you lay out how they say this all went down?
This is unreal. It's stunning. I mean, you can use a bunch of words to describe this, and I thought we were going to get a news conference where maybe we got some details, but that went out the door as soon as he started talking. They decided to lay it all out for us. They wanted to make sure people understood exactly what they were doing. They've been hearing everyone sort of talking in the vacuum about this case, and they sort of were tired of people kind of pinning it back on them. First of all, January 29th, you get the phone call from 911 40 minutes after the alleged attack, and detectives started working back from that standpoint. Then you have 12 detectives working around the clock. We think more than 1,000 hours of police work went into this. And then the ID, they were able to track the two men down in Nigeria. And when they arrived back here to Chicago O'Hare International Airport, we're told they were terrified when police were walking up to them to put them under arrest. And then 47 hours into interrogation with them, they finally decided to give up the information that they needed. We now know, according to them, the detectives and the police officers, that they believe Jesse Smollett paid them $3,500 to try to pull off this attack. We even have video from inside a beauty store where they went to buy items so they could be ready to go do this. But then they took an Uber and a cab back home. You really can't play this all out. Add on top of that the letter that was sent to the Empire set a week before this attack that really looks like some kindergarten made it in a paper mache class. It's unbelievable that we ended up in this situation. But I think the thing that stood out to all of us was Eddie Johnson here talking about, one, crime in Chicago and the fact that it doesn't get covered all the time. And then two, sort of putting it on the actor himself, really talking strong about how this is all twisted and turned. In fact, listen to the superintendent talking just a moment ago.
Smollett attempted to gain attention by sending a false letter that relied on racial, homophobic, and political language. When that didn't work, Smollett paid $3,500 to stage this attack and drag Chicago's reputation through the mud in the process. And why? This stunt was orchestrated by Smollett because he was dissatisfied with his salary. So he concocted a story about being attacked. Now, our city has problems. We know that. We have problems that have affected people from all walks of life, and we know that. But to put the national spotlight on Chicago for something that is both egregious and untrue is simply shameful. I'm also concerned about what this means moving forward for hate crimes.
Wow. And I was told this motive a few days ago by sources. And you think about him standing there and talking like that. It's just such a strong presentation. The rank and file and the detectives behind him were very happy to hear their chief and their superintendent be so strong today.
Yeah. Ryan, thank you so much all throughout bringing us the details that you have, that you've confirmed. Thank you so much. But joining me right now is CNN legal analyst, criminal defense attorney Joey Jackson, CNN political commentator and co-founder of the National Black Justice Coalition, Keith Boykin, and CNN's Van Jones, host of The Van Jones Show. Thank you all for rushing in here to talk with me about this. First and foremost, I mean, Joey, have you ever seen anything like this, what you heard from the superintendent?
You know what? He had to come out forcefully like that. Think about what happened here. First of all, the public narrative here. We are in a time of such rhetoric, such highly strung, whether it relates to attacking immigrants, the blackface issue in Virginia, etc., and then you inject this into the public discourse. It's not only obviously, a mark upon the country in terms of what was occurring, but certainly a mark on Chicago. Think about what they went through. This is a superintendent who's dedicated his life to service, and to think about this, and also whenever you lay out and have detectives who are going and investigating, they're imperiled by that investigation. And so the fact is to dedicate this much time, resources, and energy on something that was not legitimate, it's problematic. And so I was not surprised that he would be so forceful, nor will I be surprised if this is false and he is convicted, that there would be jail time.
Keith, you have known Jussie Smollett for years. When you heard just now what the superintendent laid out, what did you think?
Well, I've known Jussie for 8 years, and as an African American, as a black gay man, as someone who's just watched his career develop, I feel devastated by this. It's heartbreaking. I'm hoping still, in spite of all the overwhelming evidence that's presented, that it's not true, and he's still innocent until proven guilty.
Because it's so impossible to believe, hard to believe.
Yeah, I mean, everything about this is hard for him to believe. The story itself was hard to believe from the beginning, but then the reason why he would do it was hard to believe. He had a successful career. He had no reason to do something like this, and the whole idea of doing it for a salary dispute just didn't make any sense. Even now, it doesn't make any sense to me. And there are a lot of incidents like this that many people have seen, like myself. We've seen people. I just mentioned last night, there was a guy, a black gay man, who was shot and killed here in New York City when I was the president of the National Black Justice Coalition. Mark Carson. There's a guy in Los Angeles, Ed Buck, who in his house, 2 black gay men died in the past 2 years, and he hasn't been arrested. And a lot of people in my community are thinking, this is not something we want and need. We want attention on the issues of black LGBTQ violence and hate crimes. We want it to be focused rightly where it should be, and we don't need a distraction like this right now.
What does Jussie do to that now, if this is true?
I don't know how this impacts this. I think there's a line of argument that says this makes it harder for future cases, and I understand that. But at the same time, I think a lot of people are looking for excuses to make these things harder. And people haven't paid attention to these cases in the past. They haven't paid attention to the lives of black LGBTQ people or black trans people, regardless of whether they're celebrities. The sad thing is that it took a celebrity for us to even focus attention on this. But like the police chief said, there are cases that are happening every day, and he hopes, and I hope, that people start focusing on those other cases, not just on this one.
And Van, this strikes at something you and I have been talking about, not on TV, but with each other quite a bit. Finding ways to bring people together. This is the opposite. I mean, the superintendent says that this is the opposite of that.
Look, I mean, this is the fall of an icon, and I don't think people understand how important he has been in the black community. Empire as a show. Yeah. To have him as a beloved character, I think did a great deal to knock back homophobia in the black community. The fact that Empire has been celebrated, the fact that he has been celebrated, and you see homophobia in the black community through his eyes on this show. This is a Jackie Robinson against homophobia in the black community, an icon, a beloved icon, and now you have the fall of an icon at a time when we need icons, when we need heroes, when we need people who stand up. So the level of betrayal, if this is true,
yes,
is so deep. You can see it in your voice. You can see it in your face. It's almost hard to get the words out because of how beloved he has been and how hurt we were when we thought that he had been hurt. And so I want to just say that we still don't know everything. And I don't want to see us rush to judgment on this side, rush to judgment on that side, condemn this, condemn that. That's the part of the thing we've been talking about, is that we're now in this cycle where everybody's got to have an instant, complete opinion every 15 seconds. Yeah. I don't want to do that. What I do want to say is that whatever he is going through to do what he did has hurt the cause against racism and the cause against homophobia if it's true. If there is any way that this can be redeemed, I hope it can be, but he owes those same young black gay men that he was addressing in that interview, he owes them not just an apology, but a lifetime of atonement, because this ain't nothing to play with. This ain't nothing to play with. And if he was playing with it, shame on him.
And you get to, this hits on, it's a setback on so many fronts, right? You're talking about, this is race, this is homophobia, this is the toxic political climate with him in that fake letter, according to police, that said, that targeted Trump supporters on the outside. I mean, it is...
Yeah, it's a lot. We haven't heard his voice. We haven't heard from him yet. We are in this world now where we could literally be 24 hours from now, we could be back here saying, well, we shouldn't have rushed to judgment on this. So all I want to say is that this looks like the fall of an icon. When you talk to people about this, it's a lot deeper than just a hoax. This is something that we haven't had someone like him in our community embrace in this way. We haven't had a show like Empire. And for him, if in fact he has abused his position, it's a tragedy that's beyond words in our community.
And I just want to say real quickly that I think that a lot of people say, well, how could you have believed this story from the beginning?
Because it happens.
Exactly. Two reasons. One, personally having known Jesse, I have never known him to lie, so I have no reason to think he would lie now. But secondly, these things do happen. I mean, we had Nazis marching in Charlottesville not long ago. We have people sending pipe bombs to CNN. We have just today or yesterday, we have a Coast Guard white nationalist who is involved in plotting a terror attack on Americans. So we live in difficult, extreme times. When a story like this comes up, however implausible it may seem on its face, unfortunately, we live in a world now where these things are even possible, and that's really a part of the tragedy for the country we live in.
It makes it worse, and that's the superintendent's point, that you're capitalizing and preying upon something, and that's most unfortunate.
Well, and if I don't know how to say it any other way. And there's never a good reason to make a false report, but for the pettiest and smallest of reasons, money, salary, when he's clearly well paid. I mean,
that's what has been said. We still don't know.
That's what the superintendent says.
Look, that's petty as petty can be if it's true. We still haven't heard his explanation.
I don't know that we will. And from a legal perspective, I don't know that we will, and here's why. At the point where he was a victim, it's one thing to go in and to tell all in terms of what happened, how it happened, where it happened, how were you the subject of this type of victimization. He is now a criminal defendant. The police asked to speak with him. He did not speak to them for good reason, because anything you say can and will be used against you. And the fact is, even that Good Morning America interview will be used against him. And absolutely we need to pause, and absolutely everyone's entitled to the presumption of innocence. But I can tell you this, on the facts as we know them to be now, on the facts of the brothers coming forward and their corroboration, right? Because we have the surveillance of them going to the store. They have the receipt regarding the noose. The story in and of itself, people thought was problematic in the first instance.
Plus the phone records.
Yeah, there's so much here, Kate, that leaves you to wonder. There's a lot of evidence here. I'll leave it at that.
The superintendent also took a moment, and I would even say, I think I heard him a couple times, calling people out for a rush to judgment, right? And the way he said it is, he calls it celebrities, and this was on social media, but other places. He calls it celebrities. He calls out people talking on TV, jumping to conclusions, and he also called out Democratic presidential candidates for jumping to conclusions as well. They did on Twitter, that's for sure. What is the lesson, if you put both of your hats on, Keith? What is the lesson here to everyone? But how do Democratic presidential candidates respond now?
Well, when this story first broke, I, on Twitter, reported what was reported on TMZ. I didn't put a comment on it, whether I believed it or disagreed with it or not. I think that that's pretty much all you can do in a situation like this, to be responsible about it, just to put the facts out as they have been laid out, to take an opinion about it. There's no reason why people can't believe survivors of crimes and victims, and I understand the impetus for this, but it's not just the Democratic candidates. Donald Trump was also asked about this by April Ryan in the Oval Office, and he himself said, this is horrible, this is the worst it gets, he said.
That is true.
So I don't like the idea that we're pointing the finger at why did the Democratic candidates attack
I believe he also has
why did
tweeted
Donald
about
Trump?
it since we've been on TV.
Well, I'm not surprised that Trump would tweet about it, but It's just, we live in a society, as Van pointed out, where there is a tendency to sort of have an immediate response to everything. And my fear is also, as Van pointed out, is that some people were willing to rush to judgment one way. Hopefully we don't rush to judgment the other way, because we know the police also has a history too in Chicago, and despite all the good work they've done, there's also the story of Laquan McDonald and other examples.
I just want to hold space for grace and redemption and forgiveness. At some point, this young man is going to have to come forward and say something to somebody. And I believe in atonement, and I believe in space for forgiveness. And you know, I say that with Trump supporters, with, it means I'm
you
consistent.
Have the track record,
I'm consistent. But in this space in particular, the level of pain, if what is being alleged is true, and there's a lot of facts now, the level of pain that you have to be in to do something like this is significant. I want to hear his full story too.
Guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Okay, really appreciate it. Coming up for us, there's a lot of, if you can believe it, there is a lot of other news happening today as well. Coming up, Roger Stone is getting ready to appear back in court. Could a controversial Instagram post be about to put him behind bars? And also, dreaming of a way to kill every last person on Earth. Those are the chilling and disturbing words from a Coast Guard officer who's now accused of planning a mass terror attack. Coming next, the huge arsenal that police found and his high-profile hit list. We'll be right back.